What if we don't stay married?
Well, I know, but so far.
Oh, we're going to put that in brackets at the end. How to stay married so far.
But isn't that the way that we do it, one day at a time?
Yeah, okay, I guess so. So should we go for the intro again?
I think we've introed it. We're doing a podcast named How to Save a Marriage So Far.
How to stay married. What is wrong with you?
How to stay married so far.
How to stay married so far.
There we go. That's the name of our podcast.
And what is it?
I think we just talk about how we've managed to stay married.
Okay.
Because honestly,
so far,
if you had asked us in our first year of marriage whether we were still going to be together 14 years ago, even though we did love each other, I don't think I would have been able to put my hand on my heart and say that we would.
no. There was a time that even hearing that would have sent me into a wild panic. But you're right. You're absolutely right.
You know, it's chaos.
So I'm guessing over many podcast episodes we're going to be homing in on those themes that make a marriage stay together, or those
and the themes that have made it feel like the marriage would have to end. So what are the things that all married people either argue about or suppress the argument? You've got the ragers, and then you've got the people that never quite say anything to each other.
What are we?
We're both.
Yeah.
We've got the double whammy. So what are the subjects that every couple argues about? Money? Sex? Parenting? In-laws?
Doing the washing?
We've never had an argument about
No, but we have had an argument about not having arguments about doing the washing.
That's true. Yeah. Well, we'll just name that something.
So are we going to give a thematic to every single one of these podcasts? I'm just thinking, whoever's listening or watching this, what's their grab?
Looking at myself now, though, I'm thinking I might put makeup on for the next one.
I think you look lovely.
I look like a woman going through divorce.
Well, there. And I look like a man who's been dragged through a hedge backwards.
It's interesting. This will be very interesting for us because we will have to look over our marriage. I think a lot of people over the years have known us have been either horrified by our marriage or in awe of it. And it's going to be an interesting discipline to look retrospectively through our years. We might end up getting divorced.
Do you think we would have got together if we weren't chaotically drinking like psychopaths when we first met?
I don't think we got together because we were drinking.
No, I know, but do you think it was...
When I met you, you weren't drunk.
No, but do you think the context of the chaos that we were both in at that time in our lives kept us, drew us together?
I think we were probably both around a lot of people but lonely. I think we were both feeling vulnerable but showing that we were strong. I think that we both wanted similar things out of life. I think we had, even though there was chaos, we had a similar moral compass. And I think we were both looking to belong. And also you were very cute.
I remember when I first met you. I remember vividly the first moment I saw you pull up in a car through the window of a chap called Dino's house in Leicester, and you were an hour late, and I'd already had an argument with the production manager. No, you had been late.
No, but it wasn't my fault.
Regardless of whose fault it was, we were ready to roll, and you were late. And I remember thinking, "Oh my word!" And then as soon as this curly-haired ball of madness got out of the car, I thought, "I know exactly." You know who you reminded me of as soon as I saw you?
No.
Annie, out of Annie the musical.
Oh my God, that's horrific! You mean all these years? Can you believe this? That we've been married. I never knew that you thought I was like, and tomorrow,
Precisely.
I love you.
Tomorrow. And then you ran into the house and we started filming. And to be honest with you, I was worried for many years that the only thing that drew you to me was the fact that I didn't ask you to do a pickup of walking in through the house. You just like the fact that I was swift.
People don't know what that means. Pickup.
Well, no, but in filming, she liked the fact that I didn't ask her to keep walking back in and out of the house in order to get the shots that we needed to make.
No, I did. But you know, but you say that. You say, "Oh, I think it was just because you didn't." You weren't like a lot of directors that keep saying, "Can you just do it?" But out of that, how much is that about you? You didn't need to keep asking me because you knew you were so skilled in everything that you did as a director. You knew it didn't matter how I came in and out of the door. It wasn't about the door. It was about everything else that was going on.
No, I know.
So that's what it was. It was indicative of you as a director. It wasn't just the door.
Well, no, I'm not suggesting that you were only drawn to me because of the door.
What you just said.
Dino's door.
You just said I was convinced you only liked me because I didn't ask you to walk through a door.
But I'm kind of gifting you a sort of a passport to getting to that moment where I never trusted anything about what you liked about me from the get-go. Did I? I mean, it was one of the first. If you were to isolate one of the first, you can't run away from your DNA. If you want to look at the DNA of what went wrong and subsequently has gone right, but we struggle with at times, it was the fact that I didn't, from the get-go, I didn't want to assume you were drawn to me for any other reason other than it would be something outside of myself. Do you know what I mean? It would be always a good director. It's because he's good at something else, not because of me. I didn't think you were drawn to me.
Hence where all the jealousy came from. And hence why, however many years later...
You're in shot?
Yeah. Totally in shot. I know not to go past the window.
Yeah, you know how to walk through doors, but you don't know how to stay in
Oh
frame.
my God. We're doing a podcast about how to stay married and I'm about to divorce him. No, but hence why we ended up going to marriage guidance counselling. At what age? What age was our marriage? When did you go to the Priory? How far into our marriage? So Maddie was...
About 3 years.
Yeah. So rehab...
I suppose I wasn't... Well, yeah, I suppose I was thinking...
So the first 3 years...
It's hard to talk about one's marriage without talking about the whole thing. And I think it's interesting if you look at the beginning of our marriage, the very beginning of our relationship. If you were an outsider looking in, I think I would have said, it isn't going to last.
Oh God, yeah.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
3 months
but that's what I'm asking.
6 months.
Why would you have said that at the time? Give us a snapshot from your perspective. Why would you have said that at the time?
Why it wasn't going to last? Because I was overwhelmed with your jealousy. And your jealousy was colouring everything, or draining the colour out of everything. Because I couldn't breathe, you couldn't breathe, I couldn't be... I was just so sad, I was just so depressed. And you were so depressed. And I didn't know in those early years, I didn't know you were an alcoholic. I didn't realise you, because we were heavy drinkers. Everyone we knew was a heavy drinker. And so I didn't know that the alcohol... But you very quickly you stopped drinking, do you remember? But all the problems of not drinking without getting any therapy or anything were there. And also I'd come out of hell. I'd come out of the most terrible times. So I was in chaos, you were in chaos. We were two people that loved each other, but were both a mess in different ways. I mean, we always talk about what the problem was in the first few years of our marriage from my perspective, i.e. you were an alcoholic, you were a workaholic, you were depressed. But what was your perception of why? I mean, what was wrong with me?
I don't see it like that.
Not what was wrong with me, but what was difficult for you about
I mean,
me. There's always two sides to the story.
I suppose when I look back now, I get a feeling of vertigo. We went back to Bristol a couple of weekends ago, and we went back to the flat, which was very much the location of our first 18 months together. And it was, yeah, there was the nostalgia of going back and having the memories of being there and all of that sort of stuff. I think I was surprised by how much of a laugh we had. And so it made me rethink the points at which it started to turn. Because whilst I was talking, just asking you about the beginning of our relationship, you went quite quickly to that I discovered you were jealous. Now, right at the beginning...
I did discover it right at the beginning.
Yeah, no, I know. But there were times... It's funny how I've chosen to home in on the times of kind of laughter and, silliness and what have you. And it's very hard for you to escape the moments of jealousy, control.
But I used to beg you all the time, because I used to say, we have such a great time. Why'd you just, because it was just like watching somebody just with an axe, hacking.
But I think
it was good to try and destroy it.
But I think when we came together, I think I'd got into the habit of being in relationships which could be everything on all levels, potentially. But my understanding of what a relationship would be for me from there on in for the rest of my life was it was going to always burn bright, but it was always going to die out.
Yeah, but also you were a serial...
Yeah, but that's my point. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying as I came... But I think as I came to you...
Oh, you were thinking I was unfaithful.
No. I was thinking you were. I was thinking I would be. I was thinking this is going to burn bright and it's going to fade in some... I wasn't at that point thinking it will be me, it will be her, it will be whoever. It will just happen.
But was it you? I've never asked you that question.
What?
Well, all your other relationships, you'd been unfaithful. So did you think, oh my God, I'm going to be unfaithful to her?
Well, I remember thinking when I stopped drinking, if I don't stop drinking, I will end up going that way. Because in a state of depression, if one doesn't get... And, I'd say that most of my relationships I was in the past, not all of them, but the longer term relationships, I genuinely loved the person I was with. And I didn't want to not be with them. But when problems were encountered in that relationship, my go-to was to find solace elsewhere with someone else or, in another...
But I've asked you a very direct question.
Yeah.
Do you think that part of why you were so jealous with me was because of your...
Oh, at the time,
infidelity?
absolutely.
So 100%. You were judging me by your own...
Absolutely, 100%. And in fact, the more I think... It's been recognising that fact that's helped me over the years trust who you are rather than simply trusting who you are through me. Because, I was absolutely judging you through my own value system and my own behaviour. And because you were such a live wire and you were so bubbly and vivacious and, we used to have that argument. Do you remember where you'd say, I am a naturally flirtatious person and I only ever understood flirtatiousness as a sort of sexual thing, and that means, you want to be with someone else. And actually, I get now, after however many years we've been together, that it's about, but it's a flirtatiousness with life. It's a flirtatiousness with the situation.
To a child, and it's just
No, I get that. I get that.
And you couldn't get that. You couldn't understand.
But I absolutely would say, and I think, again, relating this to what maybe other people go through, I think it's really difficult. The beginning of a relationship is really interesting to look back at when you've been together for a long time, because within it are all the hallmarks of what went before and what went wrong and what became difficult. It's good to look at it. It's good to look at this stuff. I think maybe a lot of people just don't want to look at this stuff.
Okay, so what was the most difficult thing for you in the first year of our marriage?
Being with a woman who understandably was the life and soul of every single social situation. I found that really difficult. As in, I hitherto had been the star, for want of a better expression, in my social circle. And suddenly I was with someone who was, streets ahead of being able to kind of charismatically carry a drunken, hysterical night out. And I was like a bit thrown. And yet at the same time, absolutely drawn to it because it was infectious.
Were you jealous of it?
Yeah, probably. And yet I knew I wanted to be part of it. And yet I knew you weren't like that in a sort of game-playing way. It wasn't like you were someone who wanted to be, you can get women who are just like, I want to be this sort of sense. You weren't starry in that sense. You were just, you naturally, and you still are. No, but you still are. And it's one of the problems I have with now not drinking is how to... I'm not talking about wanting to be the star of my own show, but I like making people laugh. I like entertaining people. I like hosting people. I like doing that stuff that you do. And I think in many regards, I've hung up my footballing shoes on that because you do it so well.
Except you're the total star in this family.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm the boring mum that just does everything.
But I think everyone falls into that trap. Yeah, but I always feel guilty about that. I feel like I need to clip my wings with it.
But you shouldn't feel guilty. But you really shouldn't feel guilty. I think that's the thing about couples, isn't it? Just like I shouldn't feel guilty if I am what you say I am in the social situations. I can't feel guilty for what I am. I shouldn't feel guilty, and you shouldn't feel guilty for what you are. I would want to be, in an ideal world, mostly I would want my girls to think that I'm the star of the show. Our girls, but you are.
I don't agree. I think they see us independently. They know that I'm silly, but they don't like it when I'm down.
They don't think I'm funny or silly.
Yeah, but I worry that they think that the starriness of Dad is a conditional one based upon him being in the right mood, and that saddens me because we all go through highs and lows. We all have good and bad days. They have good and bad days, and
isn't this funny? I've just got to pause everyone here. Isn't this funny? If ever a couple try and talk about their relationship, they always end up talking about their kids.
Well, we do.
We've gone to the kids again.
But anyway, I think it's really good for this first podcast for us to be homing in on that first period of time.
Yeah.
It's a really, and especially having been to Bristol recently and having been there and having seen the scenery that we were in.
I suppose that's one of the important things about a marriage is to always try and... You don't want to be remembering in a way of like, oh, there's the halcyon days when everything... But to be able to just reconnect with how you felt in your early days. A lot of people, we all struggle to do that, I suppose, in a marriage. And a marriage is about... when you think back to when you were young, you would have heard somebody saying, oh, we really work at our marriage. You go, oh, they're working at their relationship. Shit, that's a terrible relationship. Because it's just all impulse when you're young. And then you get into marriage, and marriage is every day choosing to work or not work at that relationship. And anyone that thinks it just all falls into place and it's all magical, and the magic of it is working at it. But the difficult thing is when you've got one person that doesn't want to. But that is what is so hard. When I, friends of mine that want to go to marriage guidance counselling, and one, either she or he doesn't want to go, that's so hard. And I think the fact that we both... Well, I gave it to you as a fait accompli, didn't you? I said, if we don't go to marriage guidance, we're not going to stay together. Just like when I said, if you don't go to rehab, we're not going to stay together. Seems to be a way of making you do things.
I like structure.
I want a cup of tea or I'm leaving.
I like structure.
I want a cup of tea or I'm leaving.
I'm a big fan of parameters and I'm a big fan of deadlines. I like being given a brief. And if your brief is shit over there and you're out, then I'll try not to shit over there.
So what would you say to couples who are struggling? Because it was me that approached you and said I wanted to go to get marriage counselling. If there's a woman out there or a man that's struggling to get their partner, because I was the one that wanted to go. I was the one that's always been proud of it and told people. And do you remember when I used to mention it on Loose Women? You'd be like, I wish you wouldn't say we've been to marriage guidance counselling. I said, I'm proud of it. I've got nothing to be ashamed of. I'd be more ashamed if I was pretending we were fine and we weren't fine.
Yeah, but I do sometimes feel the 6 years difference between us, sometimes.
7, isn't it?
6 or 7. I do sometimes feel that gap.
He's younger, by the way.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to tell. I do feel I feel the gap in terms of experience or wisdom or a kind of maturity.
No, it's just because you're a man.
Yeah, I know, but men are more immature than women.
The same age as me, you would still struggle. Women mature emotionally much faster.
No,
than
I know.
men.
So you're 6 years. You are literally 6 years older than
it's
you.
Like 20 years.
It's like 20 years older than me. Exactly, absolutely. But again, when I think back to when we first met, I get lots of cringe moments, born out of the nice moments. And when I think back to...
What's your major cringe?
And then wow, just the bollocks we spout about how cool we are. We're singing David Gray down the phone to you. That was really cringe.
I love that. That's a really good memory for me.
Oh, well, there you go. No, but I mean, when I look
because
back...
we've been talking on the phone for about an hour, and then you rang me back and sang and went, yeah, I just wanted to show you I can sing as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's how pissed I was that I thought I could sing. And I remember being very embarrassed about the fact that I had 2 daughters. Very embarrassed about that fact. And I'm sure
being
we'll
very put off by the fact you had 2
I'm
daughters.
sure we'll talk about that in another one, but I mean...
I remember thinking, oh my God, you've already got 2 kids. God,
Yeah.
no.
Oh.
I
Well,
would
I mean...
never, this was me, I would never be with anyone that's got kids before.
Well, you felt like that. But you felt like that. I wasn't a fool. I didn't feel like, obviously I didn't feel like that about my girls, but I felt like that. I knew I'd feel like that about me. So I wrote myself off. Did you hear that? I wrote myself off. So in writing yourself off, you lose self-worth. And if you lose self-worth, you don't care what you do. And then if you don't care what you do, you don't care how brightly these little relationships can burn and how quickly they can burn out. And that's where I was at.
Because you had already written the story.
Well, I'd written the story that how on earth, I always wanted a family that I lived with, that I held and cradled and had in my life in the way that I didn't have my own father and all that kind of stuff. And there I was with 2 daughters that I didn't have. And I thought, how am I going to meet someone? Who am I ever going to meet who's going to accept that part of my life first and then take an enormous deep breath to then move on to the next part of our life of having our own family together? I mean, it's you know...
It's hard.
It is hard. And I think...
But it's the way more and more relationships are now. And, you know, I think, God, when I think about... That's why I always say to everyone, never say never. Never have this great long list of this could never be the case, that. Because you can miss the right person for yourself. The only thing I was sure of would never marry someone that already had kids.
You definitely in short.
Yes. I'm in shock, I know.
On that side?
Darling, you said to me, I can't have the line of the window. The line of the window is a mile away.
Yeah. I find, yeah.
I wonder how long a podcast is supposed to be.
They can be anywhere between 22 minutes and 34, I think.
Oh, it's
or 45 minutes.
0.7. So have we, with this, have we had a theme with our first podcast?
Well, the theme I was trying to keep it's great. I think we should spin off into all the things that we're going to talk. I mean, I think we're going to, because I can do some of this in this, so don't worry.
Yeah, but I was thinking we should have themes.
Well, I thought the theme should be how we met and how within that first time of meeting.
But will people be interested in people they don't really know talking about how they met?
Well, yes.
Or do they want to know? Or do they want to know how shit it was and how we fixed it?
Yeah, but within how we met was how shit it was.
I did just go over the line just then.
That's really annoying.
Is it? Can I never do that even for a second?
No, not really.
I wonder, and maybe people could leave comments on this. I wonder whether we should. I don't really know how a podcast works. Do people leave messages underneath?
No.
No. So maybe we should each have a question each week that we want to ask the other one about our marriage and with the theme how to save a marriage.
How to stay married. When are you going to get that in your head?
Now. I love the for now. That's inspired brackets. How to stay married.
For now.
For today.
For now.
Just for today.
For now.
For now. It starts to sound weird when you keep saying it.
For now.
For now. For now. Say it really fast.
It's hard to encapsulate everything. I think we've managed to talk about.
Do you think we've talked about too many different things?
My worry was that you were rushing us off to couples counselling so fast we were going to have been left with nothing to talk about in another podcast.
Oh God, darling, there's so much to bloody talk about. I mean, just think of all the sessions we went to have to
yeah, but a great many of them just involved one or either of us sitting in a corner sobbing our hearts out and saying nothing and wanting to run down the street and burn each other's heads off.
Do you remember the awful drives home in the car?
Yeah, yes, we'll get to that. I remember the awful drives there.
But it did save our marriage.
So okay, let's cut back in and
I
go.
would have everyone.
I think let's go back in and let's tease people up for something that's coming about.
Okay, so we're going to, through this series of podcasts, we are going to talk as openly and honestly to each other, and therefore to you as well, about all the major fuck-ups that come along in a marriage.
Everything.
All those things. It's going to be scary. I'm a bit scared.
My heart's pounding. Yeah, my heart's pounding.
Because we all keep a lot secret, don't we? To get on with it. So should that be our first one?
What?
This.
Saying that?
I mean, should we say that's it now? Because it's 26 minutes, 0.2 seconds.
What do you mean? Have you just trailed what's coming, or are you telling us what we've just heard?
No, this is what's coming up.
When?
In the series.
Not
when should we put it out?
But you're not wanting me to take what we've just said and edit it and put it at the beginning of this podcast?
No, I don't think so.
We just leave this at the end.
Could do. We could put it at the beginning and the end.
What's this podcast called?
How to Stay Married for Now.
Very good.
It's got a real ring to it.
It's got a real ring to it. Okay,
smooth.
let's pause. Turn off.